Splitgate was supposed to be the game that revived old-school arena shooters. The game was marketed as Halo meets Portal, and it featured a variety of weapon types, both familiar and new. It also gave you the ability to use 1.5-sided portals in a strategic manner, allowing the caster to see, shoot, and jump through them. The game launched with multiple modes including King of the Hill, Team Deathmatch, VIP, and Oddball. 1047 Games, with the help of Twitch streamers, managed to hype this game up to a staggering degree, bringing in almost 70,000 concurrent players at its peak. So what happened? Before I get into the meat of this video, I just want to remind you guys that everything said in these videos are the opinions of me, friends, and members of the community. It's completely okay to have an opposing view. Make sure you let me know in the comments below if you disagree with anything I've said, or you just want to give your perspective. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the market as a whole, and take a look at some of the game's competitors, as well as highlight some issues with the genre itself. You see, top titles in the FPS genre have had turbulent times to say the least, especially when you're looking at arena-based shooters. Interest in franchises like Quake, Team Fortress, Halo, and even Overwatch have been declining significantly over time, with much of that audience being sucked into Call of Duty, various battle royales, hero shooters, and tac shooters. Tac shooters and battle royales specifically control a major portion of the market respectively, but they almost make up their own hemispheres of the community altogether, so we'll be ignoring these subgenres for the most part today. A part of what's been happening here has been due to the principle of replayability. Historically, in multiplayer games, the multiplayer portion was the replayability, but as time went by, consumer desire changed. It used to be that people enjoyed hopping into a game, playing that game out, and rinsing and repeating, with the only real measure of skill or progression being a leaderboard. Over time though, people became less interested in the no-frills adventures that this system offered, instead looking towards games with built-in rank systems, cosmetics, loot box mechanics, or really any other type of metagame progression. Plenty of games failed to adapt to this evolving model, and plenty of games fell off the face of the earth. Another issue with the genre is the new player experience. The promise of an arena shooter is a fast-paced game, oftentimes with wacky physics and crazy guns that are heaps of fun. The first problem here comes with the systems often being unintuitive. Something like Call of Duty is super easy to wrap your head around. You run, you aim, and you shoot at enemies. But in a subgenre that often has things like jetpacks, mega jumps, incredibly fast pacing, and now portals, it can be hard to figure out how to traverse mind-bendingly designed maps, or even to know what to do to begin with. Lots of people quit arena shooters before they even begin to get a grasp on them. Over time, a lack of new players with a steady stream of players who are aging out of gaming created a drain for the entire subgenre of arena shooters. Now enter Splitgate, a breath of fresh air. They wanted to bring back the nostalgic times for many of us. They wanted to create something that was modernized, but without sacrifice to the core of the subgenre. And by all means, it looked like it would, and had worked. They had a rank system from the get-go. They had smooth movement and gunplay that was very intuitive for a new player, a decent amount of maps, interesting weapons, good netcode, and a new and unique system in the portals. They also had a lot of cosmetic expression through microtransactions that had no impact on the balance of a game whatsoever. 1047 was a company that was loved by the community almost immediately, but Splitgate was fundamentally unpolished. The portals, while being fun, were polarizing and daunting. It hurt the new player experience. The entire system also quickly devolved into degenerate gameplay, in which one team would throw a grenade at the surface and spam portals at it to prevent the enemy team from casting portals to said surface, at which point the other team would throw a grenade at that surface and spam portals at it to prevent the first team from casting portals to said surface, and so forth and so on forever. The metagame progression that existed felt somewhat bland. The skins weren't all that interesting, and rank just kinda sucked due to the most fun game modes not being included, and the pacing being fairly slow for an arena shooter. Even the 4 fun, unranked modes ended up getting stale pretty quickly. There were also quite a few server issues on launch, which in a society with an ever-decreasing attention span is never good. And 1047 didn't seem to have a roadmap set out for post-launch, allowing much of the hype to dry up, as the company failed to release content quickly enough for people to stick around. But at the end of the day, despite the game being unpolished and feeling a little bit bare bones, it was still fun, especially for those who were in love with arena shooters already. And I don't think that any of these issues played a major part in the game's eventual demise. I think Splitgate died for one simple reason: it got timed. Most of the player base comprised fans of the arena shooter genre, people following the streamer hype, and people who were only there because their main game was going through a lot of issues at the time. These three groups of people all have one thing in common. They're temporary. The fans of the old school arena shooter genre, although diehard, are very niche in community, and one that is typically aged out of their 15-hour-a-day gaming sessions. People following the streamer hype simply moved on with the streamers, and people who were only there because their main game was struggling left as soon as those issues were corrected, namely Call of Duty largely fixing its cheater problem for COD fans, and a new Halo installment coming out for Halo fans. Market sentiment has changed too much for a game like Splitgate to work, and while I'm hesitant to declare the entire genre dead, I'm not sure that going forward this style of game can fill anything but a niche. Most of the entire FPS community has already been absorbed into either hyper-competitive tactical shooters, no risk, high reward adrenaline factory battle royales, and hero shooters. And I do feel really bad about it at the end of the day, because I think Splitgate was a truly great game that deserved more praise and more fans, and it's too bad that Splitgate came to this world too late.